love it.
And I do love it. I do love it. In a few moments, I'm going to introduce our hosts and our co-authors to you. But first, let me tell you how the evening's going to go. I'm going to introduce our speakers one at a time with their bios, and then we're going to lead into their stories. After they've had a chance to tell you a bit of their story, we're going to have a formal presentation which will last about an hour. And Miriam and Jeffrey will go over the overview of the book, and then we're going to highlight 4 chapters. So each of the couples will be able to talk more in depth about 2 chapters. And that'll be a lot of fun. Then we're going to have some time for you to talk with each other. And we'll finish with questions and answers. And after that, we'll have a book signing, and you can talk and relax and network and connect with each other. Okay, great.
Great, outstanding job.
Thank you.
You did very genuine.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you very
I
much.
hire you.
Very relaxed.
Okay.
I've been doing this for a while, my kid.
Yeah. So first, I would like to introduce to you Miriam Hawley and Jeffrey McIntyre, our authors. Miriam Hawley and Jeffrey McIntyre are the CEO and president of Alignment Inc., a business coaching and consulting company specializing in leadership development, systems thinking, and organizational change. Miriam and Jeffrey work separately and together with executive management teams and entrepreneurial individuals, couples, and families to create relationships aligned with extraordinary results. Truly. Miriam is a founder of the Boston Women's Health Book Collective, Inc., the organization you might recognize as being responsible for writing the bestseller, Our Bodies Ourselves. Whoa. A book that shifted the national and international dialogue about women's health, sexuality, and power. She was honored in 2012 and featured along with Gloria Steinem and 98 other women as one of the makers, Women Who Make America, otherwise known as 100 Groundbreakers Who Changed the World. You can read about this on the website makers.com. Miriam is a catalyst for global transformation and has a contagious and inspiring commitment to living life fully. Miriam has a passion for working with entrepreneurs and co-preneurial couples. Jeffrey is expert in working with health and medical professionals. He is the creator of the 7 Intelligences of Leadership, a comprehensive, integrative, and systemic approach to becoming an effective leader. He served as president of the Massachusetts Association for Marriage and Family Therapists and has received MAMFT's highest award for his contributions. Jeffrey has practiced meditation in a variety of Buddhist traditions for over 40 years. He is a meditation instructor in the Shambhala Buddhist tradition and has created the program The Heart of Recovery, which integrates Buddhist meditation with Western 12-step traditions. In partnering, they co-authored You and Your Partner, Inc., published in 2012. So let's start with their story. Miriam and Jeffrey created a book by consulting with and interviewing 50 couples and finding the commonalities to creating success in business life and love. They were curious about what successful couples were doing to succeed. They were exploring what was required to fully express their vision, their commitment, and to fulfill their purpose as individuals and as a couple. They found that Peter and Patty and many other couples were making these conversations come alive as they were developing and building their businesses and their lives together. Please join me in welcoming Miriam Hawley and Jeffrey McIntyre.
Well, good evening. It's really great to be with all of you this evening and talk about this subject, which we both love dearly. You have to love it after 8 years, so how long important things I'd like to have you know about the book is that it really was a labor of love. We started out in 2004, 2003 with presenting work that Mary Elizabeth just described, the leadership work up in Canada at the Family Firm Institute. And the way my mind works is it niggles at something and then naggles at something, and finally it kind of makes it to the surface that something was going on. So I was interested in the whole idea of this leadership and how leadership takes place in families and family businesses. And it dawned on me at one point that there was a whole lot of discussion of family businesses about the way it's transferred directly over time. But in fact, there was nothing there in terms of what brought couples together to even consider either one person being in charge of the business or for them to do the business together. I never really thought about that. And so I really began talking with Miriam as we were going through the conference in Toronto about the Family Firm Institute's conference in Toronto, to how to really bring forth this whole new dimension of people. And there was a name for it that a woman out in the West Coast had given to it, copreneurship. And so I thought, let's go talk to all the people who are thinking that way. Let's see what we can find out. And that began the investigation that Miriam will describe in terms of just getting connected to people and then them introducing us to more people. And out of that
You're
came...
doing a great job describing it.
You're in the book.
No, continue. I'm going to talk about the difference that the book, that we want to make in the world. So say some more about
Yeah, that's good.
You're doing great.
You're doing fine.
Just a minute, I lost my place in the script.
You were talking about copreneurial couples and
Right,
Kathy
copreneurial.
Rorschach's book, and realizing that we were a copreneurial couple. We had been in business for a long time in a private practice,
Yeah.
and were being drawn to CEOs and other managers and leaders who were coming for our psychotherapy services, but when they discovered that we were business people, they wanted us to talk about business strategy.
Right. One of the other things that it was a kind of nascent or sort of a very small part of the background of the conversation was, as a family therapist, I'd worked a lot with issues of power and issues of how the parents work as agents of power or not. And so I began to work in terms of trying to understand that in terms of the whole team I was part of at the Cambridge Hospital. And those two sort of flowed together in the early 90s, and then this came up to the early 2000s. And then there was this discovery that we made when we were on trips to the Adirondacks about a great-grandfather of mine. And he turned out to be a very entrepreneurial Scotsman, very powerful person in all of the life of Albany, New York. And it sort of gave a permission that I had never felt before to go into business. I'd grown up in a family that was artisans and tool and die makers, to really go into business as a business person and to understand what that meant. And so I read up on dear old Archibald McIntyre and felt very kind of grounded in some way that was very special, that there was a family lineage there.
I think we both, you discovered it for yourself a little bit later than I discovered it for myself, and really understanding that there were a lot of entrepreneurs in my family, and I saw that an aunt and uncle, for instance, had a lot of freedom that, you know, my parents didn't have as working people connected to a company, and I wanted some of that. And so, you know, I began to really think about what does it mean to be a copreneurial couple, and we got very curious and started to interview other couples like Peter and Patty and figure out what were the common threads. And I think the other thing that is really important in terms of what has united us from the very beginning is a vision of making a difference in the world. And one of the things that we discovered as we were going through interviewing, dozens and, over 50 people and talking to a lot more people than we actually even interviewed, is there was a common thread through many of the couples who also saw their relationships as outward-facing relationships. And by that I mean relationships to make a difference, that part of their mission, part of their purpose in being together as a couple was to make a difference in the world. And both of us grew up in families that were really committed to making a difference. And so one of the things about this book that we hope for is that in having the stories of Peter and Patty and our stories and other couples in the book, that people will see the difference people can make by taking charge of the fullness of their personal and work lives, and really create a model for corporate business that is suffering from people not taking care of themselves as well as they might. And Peter and Patty as chiropractors certainly know that. So there's a vision that's embedded in the stories of a lot of couples who really are inspiring to the world at large. And one of the things that, as we began to see that this was happening, this inspiration, we were inspired to get the book out.
So, right,
And that is, you have 2 minutes left. You want to use them.
Well, they don't have to use it if they don't
Yeah,
want
you
to.
don't have to use it.
And one of the valuable things of doing this is seeing how long things take.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient.
That's great.
Yeah. It's awesome. Thank you.
Hey.